Harry's wife. No ginger bollocks for me. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. Narcissists don't like you having other partners. Obviously, we don't like it if you are cheating on us. And if you want to understand how that affects the narcissist, then watch my video, Cheating on the Narcissist. But that isn't what I'm talking about here. What I'm talking about here is your previous partners, your relationship history, your sexual past. At some juncture, everybody gets one. And then, in due course, should you find yourself being ensnared by a narcissist, the narcissist will take a keen interest in your previous relationships. While you're being seduced, the narcissism functions so as to basically adopt this setting. Okay, we don't really like the fact that they've been with other people before us. We don't really like this individual talking about them. However, we might be able to utilize some information from those previous relationships to our advantage. And because this individual presents as a decent prospect vis-a-vis the prime aims, we need to keep a lid on our distaste of their previous partners. And we can do this because we're in the golden period. And therefore, when you first meet the narcissist and perhaps make mention of the fact that you've come out of a previous relationship, the narcissist doesn't like the fact that you've had a previous relationship, but will use the existence of that previous relationship as a means to assert control over you. So, for example, and this is often the case, the victim has had a difficult relationship in the past, often because they've been involved with another narcissist, but they didn't realise it. And the fresh narcissist can use that to their advantage. I'm so sorry you had to go through that. That must have been awful. I'd never treat you like that, etc. In effect, exhibiting false compassion and triangulating you with your former partner. The narcissist doesn't like the idea that you've been with somebody else. In effect, in the world of the narcissist, you're expected to turn up pristine, unsullied from the touch of anybody else, never having locked lips with anybody. But during this golden period, the narcissist can handle the fact that you have been with other people. Some lessons possibly might start to boil over with a degree of ignited fury, particularly if you sing the praises of a previous partner and do so on a repeated basis. But as a general rule of thumb, when you're being seduced by the new narcissist, then they're able to keep a lid on matters. However, of course, when you enter devaluation, be it corrective or sustained, then the existence of your previous relationships will be thrown in your face. The narcissist will bring up the past. The narcissist will go, oh, you're always talking about such and such, aren't you? Oh, if she's so wonderful, why don't you go back to her? You'll be compared unfavourably. You will find that the narcissist will pour scorn on your previous partners. If, for instance, you've had quite a few, you'll be labelled a player, a slut, a Lothario. If you haven't had many sexual partners, for instance, your lack of experience will be used to belittle you and invalidate your views and opinions. The existence of a sexual partner, a relationship partner, ultimately is a threat to the narcissist. The narcissist will use that in some shape or form to control you, sometimes benignly and invariably malignly. And what about Prince Harry? Well, I mentioned in parts past him about the fact that previous girlfriends were approached in order to have their say for the purposes of spare, though many of them seem to be somewhat recalcitrant in that regard. But a leak from Spare suggests that Harry basically popped his cherry when a teenager as a consequence of it being an older woman in the countryside. Yes, old Ginger Bollocks spraffed his load with somebody older, a Mrs. Robinson character perhaps. And this has resulted in some speculation. And in the Los Angeles Times, an article by Christy Carras tells us, Elizabeth Hurley is setting the record straight about her sexual history, or lack thereof, with Prince Harry. In a recent interview with the Sunday Times, the British actor and model shut down a rumour that she took the Duke of Sussex's virginity when he was a teenager. The rumour stems from Harry's forthcoming memoir, Spare, in which he reportedly mentions losing his virginity to a beautiful older woman in the countryside, to quote the Sunday Times. Some have speculated that the unnamed beautiful older woman might be Hurley. According to Insider, Hurley previously lived in Gloucestershire, where multiple members of the royal family own property. Not me, not guilty, ha, Hurley told the Sunday Times. When pressed further, the Austin Powers star doubled down. No, not me, absolutely not. The Hurley interview comes less than a month before Harry's memoir is set to be released. In late October, Penguin Random House announced that Spare is due January the 10th. The book is billed by the publishing giant as a tell-all rife with raw, unflinching honesty, as well as insight, revelation, self-examination, and hard-won wisdom about the eternal power of love over grief, if you say so. The article rounds up by stating Harry also recently opened up about his personal life and romance with Harry's wife, Duchess of Sussex, in the buzzy Netflix documentary series Yada Yada Yada, boring, boring, rhubarb, rhubarb, heard it all before. Now, Liz Hurley's moved to deny that it was her, which is interesting of itself, because it wasn't necessarily being suggested that it was her. Although there's been a degree of speculation, it's hardly been occupying news headlines around the world. But the fact is, how would Harry's wife feel about the fact that, first of all, has bust his nuts with a beautiful older woman in the countryside? Well, Harry's wife won't like that. She doesn't like the fact of thinking that he's done anything with anybody else. It will threaten her sense of control. And therefore, particularly because he's now in a sustained devaluation, she'll pour scorn on that. Furthermore, the suggestion that it might be Liz Hurley, who is a beautiful woman and indeed older and has retained her looks as a consequence of course, a strict diet, exercise, and, of course, a bit of help from the potions and lotions and the surgeon. But nevertheless, one would admit that she has stayed pretty good-looking into her now 50s. That, of course, will also rub up Harry's wife, because ultimately she will believe that she's better looking than Hurley, and the fact that many people talk about Liz Hurley's beauty, etc., and even though Has was not balls deep in Hurley, the mere suggestion that he had involvement with her, and the speculation of the same, is enough to get under the skin of the narcissist that is Harry's wife. The contemplation that he was banging somebody else, Hurley or this older woman, is a threat to control. Now, of course, many people don't like the idea of thinking about their partner being involved in discussing Ugandan affairs with somebody else, making the beast with two backs, pounding the Punani pavement, and playing hide the sausage with them. Naturally. But for the narcissist, it goes deeper. It goes deeper because the suggestion of that now intimate partner, primary source victim being with somebody else is a threat to control. For anybody else, it's just something of, I don't really want to talk about it or think about it. It isn't an issue with regard to control, but it is for the narcissist. And therefore, the contemplation that Harry has been knocking somebody else's hip out, slipping them a crippler, offends the notion of control that Harry's wife has, and she'll have to do something about it. She'll invariably pour scorn on it by going, "Ew, you went with her, the dirty skank," to belittle Harry because he's in a sustained devaluation. Or in other instances, just withdraw from it by pouring scorn in her own mind upon the individual and then believing that she is the most sexually available and attractive individual that he's ever wanted. Nevertheless, the narcissist does not like it when your relationship history, your sexual history, comes up on the radar. And Harry's wife is no different in that regard. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.